The door at the end of the hall. When I married Thomas Whitfield, everyone told me I was the luckiest woman alive. Big house in Connecticut, beautiful garden, a husband who was generous, calm, and kind. But on the very first night I walked through that house, down the long hallway on the second floor, I noticed something. Every door was open. The bedroom, the study, the guest rooms, every single one, except one. At the very end of the hall, a dark wooden door, old brass handle, a keyhole, but no key anywhere in sight. I touched the handle. Locked. I asked Thomas about it that night, casually, like it didn't already bother me. Me, Nina, what's in the room at the end of the hall? Thomas, just storage, old things, nothing interesting. He smiled, changed the subject. I let him. But that door never left my mind. Not once. Not for 5 years. My name is Nina Calloway. I grew up in a small town in Virginia. Nothing broken, nothing extraordinary. I came to Hartford at 28 for work. Small apartment, quiet life, a job at an architectural firm. I met Thomas at a client dinner. He was 51, I was 28. I know what that sounds like, but he wasn't what you're imagining. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of man who listens more than he speaks, who asks about your work, genuinely asks, and remembers every detail the next time you meet. He had been widowed 7 years earlier. His wife, Margaret, had passed from illness. He had no children, or so he told me. He lived alone in that big house in Westport. We married 18 months after we met, and I moved into a house that already held a history I didn't fully know. Our life together was good. I want to be honest about that. Thomas was patient, present, generous, never harsh, never cold, but there were silences in him that I could never quite reach. Moments where he would sit by the window, looking at nothing, somewhere far away inside himself. And I noticed, those silences happened most often when we passed the hallway on the second floor. When we walked by that door. 6 months in, I asked again. Thomas, can we do something with that room? A reading room, maybe? Or just open it up? Something crossed his face. Just for a second. I couldn't name what it was. And then it was gone. Thomas. Not that room, Nina. Please. Any other room in this house? Yes. Just not that one. His voice wasn't angry. It sounded like pain wearing a calm face. I didn't push, but the question never left me. In the second year of our marriage, I found something. I was reorganizing the library, pulling old books from the lower shelves. A folded piece of paper fell out from between 2 books. A child's drawing. Crayon. Uneven lines. A house with a garden. A stick figure man with big hands. And at the bottom, in a child's careful handwriting, for Daddy, from Owen. I stood in that library for a long time, just holding it. Thomas had told me he had no children. That evening I placed the drawing on the kitchen table, said nothing, just waited. Thomas walked in. He saw it. He stopped walking, like the air had gone out of the room. He sat down slowly, picked up the drawing with both hands, and I watched this composed, quiet man try very hard not to come undone. Me. Thomas, who is Owen? He didn't answer that night. He just held the drawing, and I sat across from him in the silence of a story I didn't yet know. The next morning, over coffee, Thomas talked. Owen was his son, his and Margaret's, born with a heart condition. He had lived to the age of 9. Owen passed 2 years before Margaret did. Thomas had lost them both, his child, then his wife, within 2 years of each other. I didn't speak. I just listened. When you asked if I had children, I couldn't say yes, because saying yes means explaining. And I was never able to explain Owen the way he deserves to be explained. He was the best thing I ever knew. Losing him, before Margaret, that was the thing that broke the frame of me. Everything after was just holding the pieces together. I reached across the table, put my hand over his, said nothing. There was nothing to say. I didn't ask about the room. Even now, even knowing about Owen, I didn't ask. Some things have to be offered. They can't be asked for. I lived in that house for 3 years, with that locked door at the end of the hall. Every day I walked past it. Sometimes I slowed down, looked at the handle, then kept walking. I had made a silent promise to myself. When Thomas was ready, he would open it, Not before some nights I would hear him, the creak of floorboards, the soft turn of a key. A door opening, then closing. Silence for an hour, sometimes two. Then the key again. Footsteps back. I never asked where he had been. He never explained. But in the morning, he always came to breakfast quieter than usual, but somehow lighter, like he had set something heavy down and was carrying it again by dawn. 3 years into our marriage, Thomas collapsed at work. Cardiac, 8 days in the hospital. I sat beside his bed every one of those days. I didn't think about the room. I didn't think about anything except him. When he came home, he was slower, more tired, more careful with his words. Illness does that, makes people choose what is worth saying and what isn't. About 2 weeks after he came home, I was in the kitchen. He walked in and stood quietly for a moment. Then, he set something on the counter between us. A small brass key. Thomas. I think it's time, Nina. I want to show you, but I want to do it myself, when I'm ready. Not tonight, but soon. I promise. Me, whenever you're ready, I'm not going anywhere. He nodded, left the key on the counter. I covered it with a small cloth, and I waited. It was a Sunday. 10 days later, October light through the trees, Thomas found me in the garden. He was holding the brass key. Thomas, today. Just that one word. He took my hand. We walked inside, up the stairs, down the long hallway. We stopped at the door. I had passed it hundreds of times, but standing in front of it, with Thomas beside me, holding that key, it felt heavier than it ever had. He put the key in the lock, turned it. The click of that lock opening was the quietest, loudest sound I had ever heard. He pushed the door open slowly, stepped aside, and let me go in first. I had imagined that room 1,000 times. Old furniture, sealed boxes, things packed away in the dark. Or maybe something darker, something a man keeps hidden. I was wrong about all of it. The room was exactly as Owen had left it. Exactly. Untouched for 15 years, but clean, dusted, cared for, like someone had been tending to it quietly all this time. A small bed with a blue checkered quilt, neatly made, a wooden shelf lined with books, arranged the way only a 9-year-old would arrange them, biggest on the left, smallest on the right, a Little League baseball glove on the desk, worn soft at the thumb, a school backpack hanging on the back of the chair, still packed, still there, still waiting for a morning that never came. On the windowsill, a row of small rocks, the kind a boy collects from creeks and sidewalks, each one different, each one chosen for a reason only Owen ever knew. And by the door, a single wooden chair, adult-sized, the seat worn soft from years of use. Thomas had been sitting in that chair for 15 years, coming here in the middle of the night, sitting quietly, touching nothing, just being near him. Thomas. I couldn't let it go. When I'm in here, it still feels like he's close. Like if I sit long enough, I'll hear him come running down the hall. I walked slowly to the bed, and I sat down on the edge of it. I noticed the quilt was slightly uneven, like something was tucked beneath the pillow. I lifted the corner gently. A small spiral notebook, red cover, the kind from a school supply store. On the front, in a child's careful handwriting, Owen's private book, do not read. I looked up at Thomas. His diary. I found it after he passed, kept it there ever since. There's a note inside. I put it there for you, Nina, when we were both ready. I opened the front cover. A folded paper fell into my hands. Thomas's handwriting. Thomas's note, written for Nina. Nina, if you are reading this, it means you waited. It means you gave me time without taking anything from me, and I want you to know that is the rarest thing a person can do. This room is Owen. Every corner of it, the rocks on the windowsill, he picked each one himself. The backpack, he packed it the night before he went to the hospital for the last time. He thought he was coming back. I kept this room because I was afraid of a world where Owen had no place left in it. But you came into this house, and you made room for a ghost without even knowing it. You never pushed. You never pried. You just stayed. Turn to the last page of his diary. He wrote something there that I want you to have. Thomas. My hands were not steady, but I turned to the last page. One line, written in the crooked, certain handwriting of a 9-year-old boy who somehow understood more than he should have. Dad is sad sometimes, but I think he will be okay. He just needs someone to stay. I looked up at Thomas. He was standing in the doorway, watching me. And for the first time since I had known him, he was crying, not trying to hold it in, just letting it happen. I set the diary down carefully. I walked to where he stood in the doorway, and I put my arms around him. He held on, the way a person holds on when they finally stop pretending they are okay. The door stayed unlocked after that Sunday. Not always open, but unlocked. There is a difference. People told me I married a rich man, and I did. But the richest thing in that house was never the rooms I could enter. It was the one room I was patient enough to wait for. Owen was 9 years old. He had never met me. He never would. But he left behind one sentence that somehow found its way to me across 15 years of silence. He just needs someone to stay. I stayed. Before you leave, every person you know is carrying a locked room, a grief, a memory, something too fragile to show the world. I want to ask you one thing. Is there someone in your life whose door you've been pushing too hard to open, or someone you've been waiting for, patiently, quietly, hoping that they'll finally let you in? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs it today.